Good afternoon, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Evan Host Shorty, and this week there's a lot of stuff to come out. So I'm going to do an extra review, maybe here, one or two here and there. This one has a few warnings before I get started, though. I'm going to tag on YouTube thing. On YouTube thing, I have never done. We'll do it on TikTok as well. This has content warnings for self-harm and possible suicidal thoughts and possibly violence against women. Nothing that's actually going to happen in this video is actually going to involve those, but we're going to talk about it. If these kind of things are a problem for you, are going to cause you any issues, I heartily advise you to maybe step away from this one because there's going to be some detail coming in, and I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable watching this video. There's also going to be some hell of spoilers for it. I'm going to try not to totally give away the entire story, but there's a lot that's worth unpacking, which does involve what actually happens in it. So what we're doing is we're reviewing Vermillion. This is from an artist called just Brad, something I've never encountered before, but they're an erotic and horror artist and writer, and that mixture of horror and eroticism is going to be one of the things we're going to talk about shortly. And he's also, it turns out, a big fan of Slipknot, specifically the two songs Vermillion, Part 1 and Part 2, also, which I like. I listened to earlier just to kind of remind myself of them and why they're such good songs. And it's kind of a labour of love for them. They were working out what they wanted to do with this next bit of visual art, and the song just kept going over and over in the head, and decided how to make it a personal story. Right. From here on out, we're getting into some unpleasantness. So first off, we're going to talk about some things about it, which when I first started flicking through, I thought were vaguely problematic. And this is basically, it seems to be, from an outside point of view, maybe a fetishization of violence against women. Now, big issue for me, obviously. Nobody likes to, talk about like how nice that is, because ew. But I also don't want to, hamper anyone's buzz. Consensuality is very, very important. If both people are involved doing something that they want to do, I can't see it as a negative thing, but it turns out it's not that, but it's easy to see it as that because it's exceptionally well drawn eroticism, and the violence is intense, bloody, and also I was going to say surreal, but it's not quite surreal. It's more just out there, and it basically takes you into unusual places by doing something you don't expect to happen. It reminded me when I was first looking through of some of the stuff from the Avatar off-print, the Avatar imprint that does slightly more sexual content, slightly more violence. Not something I'm a big fan of comic book-wise, but if anyone is watching this review or thinking because they have heard the same kind of thing, I want to tell you, you are not going to get what you expect from that. This is eroticism, but it is far more erotic than pornographic. There is definitely a softcore element to it. I'm not going to deny that. But if you're expecting that kind of full-on stuff you would have got from Jungle Queen or whatever was going on in those books, you're not going to get that from this. What you get is something a little bit more intense with a lot more feeling to it. We're going to carry on by talking about the artwork first off, because it is gorgeous. Again, there's a little bit of me which thinks, well, maybe when you're flicking through it, maybe it's a little bit of looking at women in a certain way that is not necessarily PC, but it's erotica, and I think that you take that with a certain mindset going in, and you're not going to be disappointed by what you get, because it is beautifully well done. It's just about scratchy enough that it doesn't look polished, but every line, every ink splatter matters, and it means something. Excellent uses of 9-page panels, including playing with the basis of the 9 pages. That one in particular is absolutely spectacular. There's just an awful lot going on there without really much changing. Each individual panel is lovingly crafted while using the same kind of motifs throughout, and I really like that as an artistic style. The splash of color of red reminds me very much of Sin City, but this is done better. Yes, you can say that he is idolizing the woman in the comic book in the way that Frank Miller does, which is not great, but this feels slightly more personal. There's something about the tattoos, there's something about the way they're dressed. When you go back, if you do choose to go back and listen to the Slipknot song Vermillion, you'll get what they're doing. This is intentional, and intentionality matters. It's not just let's put this female figure on a platform and use it as a way to sell comic books. This isn't that. It means something more. And when we do get to the violence, and there is exceptional violence in here, the fact that it's all been done from a first-person perspective plays into the story quite effectively. It reminded me quite a bit of the I was going to say Slipknot, it's not Slipknot. Smack My Up. That music video, the kind of off-putting nature of it and how it plays with your expectations is very, very effective. I thought something similar that was going to happen in this one, but it went in places even I wasn't expecting. There was a sudden violent lurch into it, but in a way which proved that it wasn't what I expected. the characterization of the POV isn't human. It is a red thing, a figure, a humanoid, if you will, but multi-limbed and all-encompassing and dangerous. It's even seductive. But this, I think, falls into the self-harm that the creator is trying to get across here. And I don't want to speak too much about this. It's not something I've had personal experience of, and I certainly don't want to put any words into the creator's mouth, just because it's the read I get from it. Comic books should be subjective. There's an awful lot of that going on in here. You can put your own twist on a lot of what's going on here, and if you want to, I suppose you could read it as violence against women, but I personally think that's an incorrect reading of it. There's a little bit of blurb at the back where Brad talks about what it means to him, but he is deliberately vague. There's a reason why Garth Marenghi, the terrible writer of fiction, dismisses subtext. It is necessary, it's essential, and here it leaves so much room for you to figure out what the story means to you. And the violence, although brutal, is quickly abnormal and surreal. The female character is not detached, she's torn apart. And I don't mean that as like, a visceral blood, limbs flying everywhere. I mean actual torn, like paper. And the figure, the POV character within, is shocked by it, realizes that this is not what was supposed to happen. There's an excellent bit of dialogue where it appears to be them talking to each other but finishing other sentences. And it's another part of that POV kind of mess around, which makes you realize this isn't what you think it is. It's constantly throughout the entire comic book keeping you on edge and keeping you engaged, which is really important. Then there's the woman laying in pieces on the floor, the POV character going to the bathroom and throwing up what appears to be a torrent of blood before looking in the mirror to, surprisingly at this point, to be revealed to be the woman in question with the knife in her gut that she used to attack the POV character as it was attacking her. She's laying on the floor. The lyrics to the song coming through in the dialogue boxes very, very effectively as a giant red insectile grub buries itself out of her mouth and onto the carpet as she lays there, blood dripping into the room. This comes across very much along the lines of it is violence has been done against the self, but trying to drive something darker out. Now, again, I'm not trying to put words into mouths of anyone here or try to talk about anyone else's personal experience, but it did come across as a very effective way for somebody who hasn't had that experience to kind of visually get that across. It's superb. It is excellent. It is dark. It is visceral. It is brutal, but it is also hopeful in a way. The interactions between the POV and the female character at the beginning are beautiful and light-hearted, and there is a sex scene, and when it happens, it is understated and erotic, and it plays into then how brutal the violence is and how those two things mar at the beginning. It's great is what it is. I'm running out of words to tell you about it, and I realize I've gone well over my 5 minutes here, but I think it's going to stand the test of time, and you don't have to be a Slipknot fan or a fan of erotic art or a fan of horror. I think this comic book is great because of what it tries to tell you and how much room it gives you to be told the story that you want to be told as well. Genuinely check it out. If your comic book store has one, go and grab one. You will not be disappointed. That's it for me today. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.